Welcome, Rich Carroll here from Home Team Inspections, and we're proud to be a presenting sponsor for SOAR and to support this session on biodiversity with Chuck Bonamer. Chuck Bonamer is the president of Trans Equity Inc. Realtors. His brokerage firm renders litigation support and lecture services to the brokerage and law industries. He was awarded Instructor-of-the-Year award for At Home with Diversity by the National Association of Realtors for 2016 and Florida Realtors Instructor of the Year for 2019. Chuck is a former managing broker for Merrill Lynch Realty and author of a real estate management series used throughout the United States. Chuck writes and lectures throughout the country. His courses are consistently the top-rated presentations at state conventions. He is also a certified National Association of Realtors One America facilitator, sponsor and instructor for the Train the Trainer sessions. Chuck is past president of the Florida Real Estate Educators Association, and he previously chaired the Professional Development Committee of the Venice Area Board of Realtors. He serves as board mediator and chairs the Grievance Committee at the Venice Board. He was awarded an emeritus status by NAR in 2013. Chuck was Realtor of the Year of the Venice Board. He holds the ITI, GRI, and CRB designations. Please welcome Chuck.
Hello, my friends, and welcome into Adventures in Learning. Glad to be here for the Realtor Association of Sarasota and Manatee. Because of the number of folks we have, I think I'd like to turn you folks into panelists rather than attendees so I can see you. But let me see if I have control of my screen. I do. We'll start with Stephen Covey. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. And that's the perspective that I want us to take not only this afternoon, but to start on it. We take a look at someone, we form judgment about that person. That judgment is based on primarily our lives so far. It's very difficult to not have our life experiences affect how we think of that person that we haven't dealt with before. So we're going to take a look at a perspective that a whole lot of people don't have. Look, I teach this class, a variation of this in At Home with Diversity. This is based on At Home with Diversity. I teach it in Fort Lauderdale twice a year. I had a student back in November who took it in February. I explained he couldn't get credit. He said he increased his production by $8 million based on what he learned in here and decided to try. He figured he missed stuff. So here he is coming back again to see what he missed. Friends, if you have questions for me, just pop them into the chat window and we'll take them from there. We're very fortunate because we live in an international community, and I want to show respect to anybody who's doing business with me. In fact, I call this respect marketing. The more respect I show to my customers, they'll show me in return by coming back to me. Right now, only 14% of our previous customers come back to us. That's it, 14%. Why? Because we're terrible on follow-up. Well, I want to show respect to the Hispanic community. Let's join the NAHREP, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. Would someone tell me in the chat window, do we have a chapter at the Sarasota Manatee Board? Many boards have a chapter of the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. It's an outstanding organization. It will give you insight into the Hispanic community. And when you have this logo on your website, you're sending a nonverbal message. Communication. Words are only 7% of communication. The communication that's on your website is going to determine who's coming in your door. Look, if I'm a Hispanic person and I see this logo and I'm looking at 3 brokerages, but you're the only one who has this, where am I going to go? It's obvious to your site. We have a lot of retired people here. I live in Sarasota County. I live in Venice. In Venice, the average age is deceased. When we take a look, let's show support to the senior community. Link to AARP. Again, another nonverbal link that shows your values. Are you homophobic, or are you open to any customer who wants to walk into your door? And if you are, this is the logo you want to put on your website and proudly display. It's the Human Rights Campaign. Many brokers didn't want to use the rainbow sign to show that they were friendly to the LGBTQ community. But those same brokers have no problem using the equal sign, and the message is the very same. I respect the human rights of everybody. Link, you're dealing with people, older people, or people with disabilities, and they're buying a house from you. Oh, but they don't have money to bring the cupboards down. They don't have the money to put a ramp in and take care of all of the and lower the counters. Well, ADA.gov is a terrific link for your website because it has money available for this, and it's grant money, and it doesn't have to be repaid to anybody. I want to do business with people of color. So I'm a member of the NAACP, and I'll make sure I have the NAACP on my website. And if someone doesn't like it, well, they're not going to be happy doing business with me anyway. So I'm not going to worry about it. I feel the same way about the National Association of Gay and Lesbian Real Estate Professionals. This is an outstanding organization that's based here in Florida. I think it could be Stewart, but you can download the LGBT real estate report at no charge whatsoever. Address of this site, naglrep.com. Also links to various podcasts and blogs if you'd like being there. What are we doing? We're showing respect to each one of these communities. And by showing respect, we're going to get their business. That's how it works. Hey, have you ever worked with an immigrant family and you discover, Jessica, if you're here, would you switch everybody to a panelist, please? Have you ever worked with an immigrant community and first generation in the United States, and they buy from you and they're thrilled with the job that you did for them? What does that mean? It means you're going to get their family's business, you're going to get their friends' business simply because of that. Why? Because showing respect to disrespected groups of people turns out. Now, this is a site for immigrants. You want to show you're immigrant friendly. You're not going to do it on a site for immigration and naturalization. Immigrants are terrified of immigration and naturalization. My parents were immigrants. This site is ILW, India Lima Whiskey.com, and it has resources for immigrants. Remember, there are a couple of words we're not going to use. And those words are foreigner and alien. If I say a foreigner is here in my office, I'm saying an outsider is here in my office. Very offensive to people from other nations to say foreigner. People don't give up their wealth, their history to come to the United States to be an outsider. But if I call them a foreigner, that's exactly what I'm doing. And by the way, the aliens will be here in 15 minutes. I tell you, I'm going to look for a spaceship. People are not aliens. People are not foreigners. We have a lack of video playback at the board, so people, I cannot turn you into participants where I could have us all on the screen at the same time. So you're gonna have to put up with me if you would. Jessica, are they able to read? Can we turn on audio for the students so they can go through different, so they can read what's on the screen with me?
Yes, I'll go ahead and turn the chat on so everyone can view what's being chatted.
Okay, and is that a verbal chat or a written chat?
It's a written chat.
Oh, I need a verbal chat. Can you set that up for me?
Let me see.
I'd rather hear your voice than see what you're typing. Again, it's the get as close as you can to your customers. And if one way of communication is more effective than my other, then use the most effective method of communication. Read the people's body language. A couple of things that you should have. Everybody should have a copy of this book. It's called How to Read a Person Like a Book. This is the best body language book ever written by Calero and Nuremberg. And you're looking at maybe $5 used on eBay and a retail of $8.95. So this is terrific to have. A couple of other.
I'm going to break in for a minute.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fantastic.
It's
How are
Jesse
you?
Sunday, Director of Technology.
Good morning, everyone.
Afternoon.
Thank you.
Who am I to say that, Jesse?
Depends on where you are. So I hear you want the attendees to be able to speak to you. Is that correct?
No, I was just wondering if my students can speak to me. Hey, student, would you read that paragraph?
I don't know that they'll have the handouts, but we can. I'm going to allow the attendees to talk.
Good.
So you can address them, and if they're able to.
I'm a happy camper with that, Jesse.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm a happy camper with that.
Okay. Well, they're able to talk, so they can unmute themselves, and then you're ready to go. I'm going to step away.
Hey, Jesse, thanks. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you. Well, people, we have a highly competent crew here. I knew that before we started. Let's look at the manual. And Jeff O'Barry, how about taking the scenario for us?
Okay. You want me to read this?
Yeah, would you please?
Minority person or immigrant wants to learn more about purchasing real property. A Google search or check of Realtor.com indicates a large selection of real estate offices in the intended market area. After examining many websites, the prospective customer still feels uncomfortable. Website after website contains only light-skinned models, no one of color, no person of any handicap, no elders, not a Hispanic family, gays, or lesbians. Finally, by chance, the customer browses a real estate brokerage website that provides information to people with diverse backgrounds. It discloses a wealth of information. There are pictures of many cultural groups, immigration links, information about financing, and helpful links to simplify the purchase process. It is even multilingual. The customer has found a real estate brokerage that provides services both needed and wanted. Valuable information presented in a friendly environment. This is the place to conduct business.
I thank you, Jeff. People, that's what it's about. It's having that customer able to say, oh, I know I'm going to be happy with the way they took care of me. Now, people, I want to hear from you whenever you want to be heard of. And that's why I asked Jesse to put us in that mode. Think of our websites. Do you have images of people of color? Why images? We're selling houses. HUD wants us to put images on our website of a cross section of customers to indicate that we are open for business with all of them. And that's an awful important message to send. Here, I'll show you my website and how I handle it. Momentito. Here it is. My site is transequity.com. No, not TrueLeaf. Yalla, that means faster in Arabic. Look, many customers look different. Many customers from many cultures are coming in. You'll notice the equal service ad welcoming the LGBTQ community in. You'll notice a page that shows people from different cultures, different kinds of families. What's the message? The message is, I am going to be comfortable in dealing with you. And that sure is the message that I want to send to members of the public. When former Florida Realtor president and NAR former president Kathy Watley out of Jacksonville says, minorities accounted for 40% of the growth in home ownership based on numbers from Harvard University. The NAHREP, National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, the home ownership rate, and here's a key to this, is 86%. For Hispanic Americans, it's 47%. I ask you, do Hispanic Americans want to own any less than anybody else? And the answer is certainly no. Well, what are we seeing? What we're seeing is a glass ceiling. What I note is a pent-up market in those differences. And because I have the pent-up market in those differences, they're ready to buy. All these groups need is somebody to come in and say, come on, let me help you with the process. The best agent I've ever worked with was an agent from Mobile. No, this lady was from Shreveport, Carmel Streeter. And Carmel's perception is, well, she has a real estate office called For Women Only. Why? She'll deal with a token male if she has to. She said women require a different service. This is Carmel speaking, not me. So I might have, women have different needs than male customers overall. So she wants her agents especially trained in construction and the mechanicals of the property. She does an amazing business. My favorite agent ever, an agent from New Orleans. She graduated high school in New Orleans. She went off to college, came back, opened a small real estate office in her neighborhood. No matter who she sent in for pre-qual, she'd get a call back that their credit is so bad that their cash isn't even any good. Over and over, to the point it gave her a great idea. Why don't I advertise for these people, train them, and then sell them property? So she put signs in every laundromat in New Orleans. Why laundromats? Because she discovered that people seldom felt as desperate as they did when they're doing their washing and drying on someone else's equipment. Do you want to own, but you've been told you can't? Do you rent and recognize it's a waste of money? Those kinds of campaigns. She starts 50 people a month, and she charges $50 each. She used to offer it free. Her dropout rate was far, far higher. They didn't have any skin in the game. So now she charges $50 each. She has a 12-month program. She'll bring an attorney in so people can be aware of their rights. Do we all get those? You've been pre-qualified for a credit card. Take yourself off that list. You'll watch your credit score go up by 13 points instantly. Well, this is the kind of stuff. She loses half of the people. Of the 25 who graduate every month, 70% will buy a house from her. 70%. Talk about grow your own. Can you see why she's easily the best agent I've ever worked with? Any of us want to work with that customer who comes in and is pre-qualified. How many of us are advertising for people who tell us, I can't afford to buy anything. My credit is bad. I've been told I can't. Yeah, we can get many of these folks property at less than the rent they're paying right now. So when we recognize a differential, Hispanic American ownership rates average in the US 68%, we're seeing a pent up demand that's showing respect to the Hispanic community, and you'd better mean it, is going to pay off for you real well. 80% of our Hispanic buyers are first-time home buyers, which is twice of the rest of the market. We're looking at a complicated experience for many people. Well, for anybody who hasn't purchased a house before, it is more complicated. And we'll make this distinction between high context and low context people. Latinos or Latinx, high context people, and therefore high context people typically like to work with someone with whom they have a relationship. We work with small businesses. Immigrants are buying sooner than they've ever been able to. When my parents first came to this country from Lebanon, they had to choose buying a house or putting the kids through school. What do you think won? And it's education for the kids above everything. Now, immigrants don't have to wait to buy. 70% of immigrants buy houses in their first 6 years of residency in the United States, and this number is expected to go way down. Discrimination, count on it. Tony Pugh, an author in Miami Herald, says real estate agents discriminated against 25% of Hispanic renters and 22% of Black renters. They were steered by the agents. Whites receive better treatment. What's that called? That's called white privilege that many people take for granted. Diversity-friendly website, it's to your advantage to have one. Show respect to as many people as you can. Folks, any questions so far? And Jesse set it up for us so I can hear you. All you have to do is turn your microphone on and I'd be glad to hear from you. All right, we'll keep going. What does HUD want? Baltimore, a lily white community, and the answer is absolutely not. But you'd never know it looking at the ads of the largest real estate brokerage corporation in the Baltimore area. They did business with a cross section of the community, but the only people you saw in every ad were able-bodied Anglos. Now, they didn't admit to doing anything wrong. Do you all know what a consent decree is? I promise I didn't do anything wrong, but I promise I'll never do it again. They paid $2 million. They weren't discriminating, of course. They just paid $2 million out of the goodness of their hearts. Federal laws and regs say human models used in our campaigns the representative of both minority and majority populations where we live. Further, that, and this is from HUD, the failure to include Black models in advertising is a blatant and insidious form of discrimination. It sends a message to an entire group that it is not welcome. Because Blacks comprise over 25% of the metropolitan area, they should be similarly represented. So if this company has photographs in their ads, one of the 4 photographs should be a person of color. Here's where the damage comes in. The consistent exclusion of Black models from real estate ads makes Blacks reticent even to inquire. Hey, nobody wants to live where they're not wanted. And that's the message that we have to change. And realtors do a good job changing that message. HUD and the court system wants our website to reflect diversity of our community. 65% of Venice is over age 65. Does that mean 65% of the people on my sites should be over 65? And the answer is yes. To reflect your community and a cross-section of your community at that. Represent all race and age segments. Here, I get lost. I don't know what race is. Somebody told me that it was a mixed race marriage. I asked, did he marry his goat, the pretty one? And they said, no, he married another person. Well, how can a person marrying a person be mixed race? So when I have an application to fill out and it says race, I'll write human. Where it says sex, I'll write yes, please. We're going to vary our photographs so that we can keep including more people. What's that called? Inclusion. And inclusion is important. I'm going to show everybody in an equal social setting. And if housing is available to everybody, I'm going to make sure you know that it is. Hey, who do you think is going to get hired first for the job? Chuck or Tyrone? Chuck will get hired before Tyrone. Why? For a couple of reasons. People don't realize that the name they put on their kid is going to affect them. Take a look at this New York Times study. Connie, would you read this to us, please? Are you there, Connie Farmer? All right, I'll ask Cindy. Cindy Furtado, would you pick it up here, please? Oh, Cindy. All right, 3 times I'm out, huh? Myrna, can you unmute? No. Having difficulty here's what it comes down to. White sounding names, these folks were hired before any other folks. So that's why Chuck would be hired before Tyrone would be. It's why Karen would be hired before Tanisha. The same logic. Buying a house, tenants. Why do people rent? Often because their parents rented. Many say this is too complex. That's where those life classes that agent in New Orleans is doing, that's helping. If you have the confidence to do something, you'll do it. When you've been beaten down and told it's not going to happen, you need someone to help pick you up. According to the Miami Herald, Miami Herald, more than 1/3 of South Florida residents rent. 1/3. 1 in 10 pay more than $1,000 a month. I bet it's a lot higher in that than Sarasota County. The last figure I saw for Sarasota County was people were paying 46% of their income to rent. We all know that number should be somewhere between 23 and 27. And 46, how do you have the money to go out for a bite, watch a movie? 1 in 20 pay more than $1,500 a month rent, and the median age. It means half of the renters are over 34, half are under 34. If the complex was built since 1990. Owning my own home is the American dream. 51% of US residents will reflect that. All immigrants, 61%. Why the differential? We talked about it earlier, a glass ceiling. African American is important to 60. Owning their own home is 67% to African American, 65% to the Hispanic community, 75% to Mexican immigrants, to people from the Caribbean, 70%. Why? Because many people think they can never own a home. And in the United States, we just take it for granted that we will own our own property. And again, let's help other people. Before I go any further, I'd like to see if you have any questions for me, or a question you were hoping someone else would ask, or an observance. My mind is open to your foibles. Anybody?
Yes, Chuck.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, I used to own a business in downtown Venice, and I think the demographics at that time were Venice was like 96% or more white. And I can remember in doing my advertising, I used to think about that because, well, and like you said, with the demographic 65 and older, my target was actually tourists, which were all ages. So I had to advertise to a broad market that wasn't just Venice.
That's right.
That's just an observation.
Yep, and you're absolutely right. And the colors haven't changed at all. We need more diversity. We need more diversity in Venice. I mean, pure and simple. It shouldn't scare anybody at all. Thanks, Jeff. Anyone else, people? Anyone else care to chime in and give me their 2 cents? Then let's take a look at the effect of home ownership on family life. It's better for families. The kids will typically do 10% higher in school than tenant scores will do. Home ownership is good for children. Owners have more of an incentive to make improvements in their home and create a more positive living environment. The author said we were skeptical at first that home ownership would have any connection with the emotional environment, but it turned out it did. Homeowners on average had a better emotional environment. I don't think that surprises any of us. Something that we want to find in the Sarasota, Manatee areas. Who's coming in? Who are our new residents? Where are they living? What are the family sizes? What are the educational backgrounds? The higher the educational background, the higher the average selling price. How much do folks earn coming in? What are their housing needs and perspectives? Carmel tells us, my friend with the office in Baton Rouge, Carmel tells us that we have to get over the notion that we work with people who share our same culture. If you're an Anglo and only choose to do business with Anglos, you're going to starve to death. Angela, would you mind reading the Carmel Streeter quote? Angela Foster? Are you there? Unmute if you are.
I am. I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes.
Would you mind telling us what Carmel said?
Sure. Mainstream real estate agents who wish to remain successful will no longer have the luxury of working with buyers and sellers of their same or nearly same background. Those agents who learn to accept consumers from outside the mainstream American culture will prosper, while those who do not will find their production static, then declining.
I thank you. People, we have to tap into every market out there, not just some. Now, if you have a chance, take that home with diversity. I presented it at your board earlier this year, but it is a super course. It's fun. You'll obtain an NAR certification. Here's the difference between certifications and designations. A designation will have an annual fee. It also may have a continuing ed requirement. A certification is free and won't cost you a penny. Let me share something with you. As long as we are talking about certifications, I want to show you the new certification in the country. And I've got it, and I think you should have it too. It's called C2EX. This is the NAR website. You'll notice the address is changed to nar.realtor. If we go to education, this is where we're going to find the code of ethics, but it's also where we're going to find C2EX. And this is the commitment to excellence. This is the logo that in fact, they have 4 or 5 logos. This is the logo that you can use on your website. You enter it with your NERDS number, you log into NAR website and you've got it right there. And you'll get a quiz, maybe 50 questions. If you got the topic correct, you'll never see it again. If it notes that you can improve yourself in an area, it will prepare what you need to do it. By the time you're done, you're going to find that you're going to find many areas of advancement that you didn't know were even there. C2EX.realtor will get you into it. Click, enter your NERDS number and your password. And here's my C2EX, Commitment to Excellence site. It says, what have I done? What are other electives I can take? But it's outstanding. Does anybody else here have the C2EX certification? Remember, there's no charge for it, no annual fee, and it's something that you can start on this evening. Marketing diversity, NAR, take it. It'll give you ideas. Demographic research. You've got to know the demographics of your community. I don't want you sharing demographics with anybody, but you can have the link on your website. And let's see, Fact Finder has been renamed data.census.gov, and this is a terrific. Why do you need this? You need this to know who to appeal to in your community. If you don't know who's in your community, you can't appeal to them. Here, I'll use Venice, if I spell it correctly. Oh, I checked TV before I came on, and no decision yet. Now, I've looked up South Venice. I live in South Venice. Shows me we have 14,400 people in South Venice. It'll show me a breakdown and the housing estimates, selected characteristics, what's the mobility, how long are people staying in a subdivision. I could call building and zoning and say, hey, tell me how long people have lived in the Sorrento. What's the average turnover rate for the Sorrento Shores subdivision? They'll say it's 12 years. Well, what do I know about everybody who's lived there longer than 12 years? The probability is higher that these people are going to move before someone else. How do people get to work? What's their transportation? all of this. How many of them have grandparents? Let's take a look at all of the maps for the area. Could you see this is a valuable site? So put a link to this on your site. It's data.census.gov. And you can look up any community at all. Hey, as long as we're here, I want to show you Muni Code, because in Sarasota and Manatee County, we have a number of little burgs with their own rules. Municode.com has every municipal code in the United States. So it is terrific. You're working in an area, you're not that familiar with it, pull up the municipal code for that area and you'll have access to everything. Questions, people? Either your question or one you were hoping someone else would ask. Do I have any of those?
I have one for you, of course.
Oh, Jeff, you've saved me twice today already, I think.
I'm your empathetic audience today, or sympathetic, whichever it is.
Yeah.
I just did at home with diversity, and I had to pay $75, and I thought that was considered a designation, and a certification, and not a designation.
Yeah, it used to be free.
Oh, okay.
2 years ago, NAR turned it into a profit center. And I have a problem with that, because I think we should offer diversity as a service to our membership, not a add-on that you buy. And see, the program was introduced in 1998 out of Washington, D.C., the NAR lobbyist group and the human rights group. And they introduced it, and it was free until 2016 or so, when RIMNY, and its need to generate more income, they love that I say this, and their need to generate more income, decided to take the course from NAR Washington to Chicago and make it a RIMNY course. So that's why you pay. And the board pays too. The board pays $15 to $30 for every student, and then you pay $75 to get the certification. Hopefully that's the last time they'll bleed you, because you've got it forever at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Ah, you're welcome. Anyone else, my friends? Then let's get back to the course. Demographic research, someone asks you, how many gingers live in this neighborhood? I don't want to live near a ginger. I don't know where gingers live. I've got a link to the Census Bureau on my website. That's as far as I can go. And some other sites to look at. And you've got all of these in your module, and you've got each of these is a hyperlink. So all you have to do is click on it. It'll bring you right there. Now, one of the most important things we have to learn about this stuff. Jeff, were you one of my students?
No, it was an instructor from Massachusetts. I can't think of his name at the moment.
Okay, I'm more offensive than any of them. Low context and high context. Arabs, I'm Lebanese. My parents were Lebanese. We're high context. The Hispanic community, the high context community, the Black community, a high context community. What do we mean by that? How we were raised. A high context person will come into your office and you will not talk real estate. You'll talk anything else for the first 10 minutes, but you're not going to talk real estate. Why? Because we have to be comfortable. If it doesn't feel right, we're not going to do it no matter how much we want it. Are we simpatico? What do we share? Our evidence, does it feel right? It's subjective. We're huggers. It gets us into trouble sometimes. And time is relative to us. Look, you're 5-10 minutes late. I have a Randy Wayne White or a Tim Dorsey Florida mystery novel all ready to read. It's no big deal. Hey, you want a friend? Get a dog. And that's the notion of, that's the low context customer. Your low context customer is going to walk in and start talking numbers immediately. You respond in numbers. They're not looking for a relationship. It's going to turn them off. They're going to find someone else. This is an analytical customer. So you want to have better and more data than that customer has. Keep your hands to yourself. And if you have an 11 o'clock appointment, you better not be 5 minutes late or that customer is going to be gone. Now, my website is my body language. What do I want on my website for the high context customer? I want a family breaking bread. I want puppies. I want kids having a birthday party. Hey, if you have an animal, do you know that animal people are more comfortable in dealing with animal people? So if you have an animal, get your animal on your website. If you don't have an animal, borrow one from somebody. For your low context customer, you want to tie into every database possible. As if this isn't enough, we have to look at the characteristics of the different generations. How do these generations want to be treated? If my parents were still alive, they'd be members of the civic generation. We never go to anybody in that generation and ask, did you like what you did for a living? Because we just disrespected them. That wasn't a generation that could do, they didn't know they could like their jobs. They'll take whatever honest job is available to keep shingles on the roof, to keep the wolf away from the door. The concept, did you like it, is alien. How you're going to sell this customer is, you've earned your house in Sarasota or Manatee County. You have paid the price all of these years. This is what this generation is going to respond to. Nobody ever gave them anything. I'm part of the baby boomer generation. Hell, we're crazy. I just got back from Haiti where I did a zip line that was 2,600 feet long. And I had to do it twice. I just had to. My oldest kids are X generation kids, 34 to 47, high bills, student loan rates. I mean, when I graduated from the University of Wisconsin in 1968, my student debt was $703. I thought it was the end of the world. How am I going to repay that? Now we see kids have student debt in excess of $100,000. Well, that's sure, and that could be either the X or the Y generation. And that interferes with their ability to buy. Something we've examined with these groups is they wait longer to buy, but buy more expensive property because they saved up because they waited so long. The next section of your module just breaks apart the different generations, baby bit generation. Every one of us remembers where we were when JFK was assassinated, the same way that the X generation and some Yers remember where they were on 2001 as well. We are very similar to the civic organization, except we have to have a good time. We are hard workers. Generation X, the first generation of latchkey kids. Mom and dad both have to work. The kids got home from school, let themselves in the house, fixed their PB&J sandwich, poured a glass of milk, and waited for the parents. Hey, I never had to deal with metal detectors at school. This generation does. Family time important. I worked with my son, Charlie. If I'd sell a house at 10 in the morning, I'd think, good, I'm all ready to sell another one at 2 and maybe one at 4:30 if I could squeeze it in. Charlie sells a house at 10 o'clock in the morning. He says, my job is done for the day. And that's a typical generational difference. We have the Y generation. They use the technology. They believe they're wonderful. They're confident, moral, civic-minded, collaborative. College loans are significant. I have one of those and 3 Xers. My 3 Xers, if they were thinking of doing something, would come to me. Hey, Dad, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think about it? Not my Y generation. She'll come to us. She'll come to me. I still think my wife died. I still think us a lot. She'll come to me and say, hey, Dad, I talked to my friends and here's what I'm going to do. That's also the generation that's moving back in with us. Our youngest daughter and her, our newest grandson, our youngest daughter, her husband and their big dog moved in with us for 8 months to save up for a down payment, which is typical with this generational group. And after 8 months, we gave her the down payment. Now we're going to take a look at, you see Sistran in front of the page. You want to wipe yourself out real fast with customers. All you have to do is an automatic translation. And the best place, you're going to insult anybody without using this program. Why? Because of the idiosyncrasies. Here's all you have to do. Write a paragraph in English, translate it to any other language, translate it back to English. In an ideal world, versions 1 and 3 will be identical. It will never happen. Now, a nice thing about world lingo, let me make this bigger on the screen. A nicest thing about world lingo is they have live translators on staff. So they'll allow, they'll first run the machine translation. And when that's over, a person who speaks that language will get online and correct it for idiosyncrasies. Now, the message my subject is going to receive is the message I wanted to send them, rather than something that got completely garbled along the way. That's not going to help you put that deal together. Search engine optimizing. I did a 3-hour course this morning with my son, Nick, on search engine optimizing. Your site has to be tuned up rather than, this would be our last topic if I talk about it. What I'm going to tell you is search engine optimization is important. WordPress is the program you want to use because it's blog software. I don't use blog software. I mean, I use blog software, that's WordPress, but I don't blog. What's the difference? Blog software will index your website every 3 hours, 24 hours a day, and it's going to keep you higher with any of the search engines. We look at resources, market to those who have been disrespected. Immigration resources. Immigrants are terrified of Homeland Security. So show sites that will support them. India Lima Whiskey, the Immigration Protocol. Then I have that up. I want to show you what's different about the Immigration Protocol. And that is IndiaLimaWhiskey.com. This is a site for immigrants. And this is an attorney site for immigrants. And also, if you're dealing with somebody and they can't afford an attorney, pro bono attorneys are available on this site. While I'm here, let's make sure that you're using Google Analytics. It will read your website for you at no charge and tell you where your customers are coming from. A friend of mine owns an office on Boca Grande. His average selling price is $3.2 million. I was having lunch with him. I asked him, where do your customers come from? He said, Chuck, they come from Cape Coral and Fort Myers. I asked, you know that or you're guessing that? He said, I'm guessing that. I put a line of Google Analytics code on his website. It turned out that 25% of the people who visited the Boca Grande website came from Austria and Switzerland, but he wasn't measuring. Here's the guideline I have for you. If it's worth spending the money, it's worth measuring the results. To spend your money where you can measure the results. Well, this will tell, Google Analytics will tell you how many people visited your website, what pages on your website did they visit? More important, what pages on your website did they not go to? What country of origin? It'll show you a map of the world and light up every country where a customer from that culture, that country came to your website. So Google Analytics is valuable. It's not going to increase your overhead in any way. Show respect to the African American community. You're going to do that by taking membership into NAACP and having the NAACP logo on your website. You also need pictures of people of color. The percent of buying power has increased significantly, both in the Hispanic community and the community of color. For example, no group watches more television than the African American community. I have a question for you. If you were around in the 60s and 70s, why did you see all of these people of color driving Cadillacs? Did you notice that? It appeared to be the preferred car. And the reason is practical. Only General Motors would offer credit to people of color until the early 70s. What did that do? Did it increase its market? It increased its market significantly. Then I find it kind of interesting just to see what was the origin of this stuff. You can't afford to lose the community of color. Do you know what NARAB was? We didn't let blacks in the industry until, bear with me, until the mid 60s. So the black brokers created NARAB.com, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. I'm a member of this group too. By having this logo on my website, what nonverbal message am I sending? And the nonverbal message is I respect people of color and I invite you to come on in and do business with me. Food and furniture are Oriental, people are Asian. An Asian person can call another Asian person an Oriental, but I better keep my mouth shut. Feng Shui, you might get that phone call. I'm moving to Sarasota, Bradenton, and I only want to see Feng Shui property. If it's not Feng Shui, don't waste my time. All you have to do is go to the web, open a site called Feng Shui for Real Estate. It'll give you a tutorial. If I don't want to do that and I just want it read, remember, simply run a Boolean search. No, wrong program. Simply run a Boolean search for whatever you're looking for. A Boolean search. I want something on YouTube. And I want to learn about Feng Shui. So do you see I put a plus sign in? It's got to be on YouTube and it's got to be about Feng Shui. And you're going to find as many programs as you want, ranging from 5 minutes, and there's a full hour version there. But a Boolean search will reduce your search time. If I was looking for a phone, but I only wanted cordless phone, I'd run a search for phones minus cord. So it would only display corded phones. Well, here we have a few things about Feng Shui. Our lives are magically linked to our environment. Feng Shui is Confucian. There's a Hindu version of Feng Shui and it's called Vastu Shastra. Certain places are luckier than others. Clean clutter. Furniture backing to a door is blocking energy. Whether you buy it or not, if your customer buys it, it's easy enough. Drains suck energy out of a room. So you get into that showing 15 minutes before the customer and you light a candle. Can you see me lighting a candle in a house to sell it any day of the week? Clear windows, angle furniture, trim trees, add a mirror. Don't forget to add your link to the Hispanic website. Hey, there's something different about the Seminole Indian tribe versus any other Indian tribe in the United States. Who can tell me what it is? You see, most others are what do we call the indigenous community? They don't call it themselves Native Americans, whatever it is. We have Indians in the form of the Seminole tribe. And the reason is the Seminole Indian tribe is the only Indian tribe in the United States that's never signed a peace treaty with the United States government. And this community prides themselves on that fact. Indian money is starting to come from Tampa and Chrome Avenue. Why? People are discovering the west side of Florida, and many would rather live here. Look at the terms. Seniors, a whole lot of us show us respect. We have a lot of buying power, and for most seniors, you're going to approach them on the basis of you have earned your property here. You have paid the price. A link to the AARP, the American Society on Aging, Social Security will help. Homophobes won't like this. I don't care what your sex life is. I have my own. It's none of my business. Well, in order to run a diverse practice, I want a cross-section of the community. I want gay agents. I want lesbian agents. I want people of color. I want representatives from the Hispanic community. I want people with disabilities. Sexual orientation is irrelevant. I hired a male secretary for one of my offices simply because he used to run an office in California. And he was the most competent of anybody who applied. What was the question I had of hiring a male? And the question was, Chuck, is he gay? And my answer was, how badly do you want to find out? Well, it put an end to it right there. And an end is in sight for me. People, I'm nearly done. Let me check with you. I'd like to answer any questions that you might have. I hope I've opened your eyes a little bit to diversity marketing. It's fun, and you meet an awful lot of good people, and you'll make more money. It's not a bad combination. Jessica, is there anything you want to say before, or Jesse or Jessica, anything you want to say before I sign out?
Nope, we appreciate you taking the time with us, Chuck. We learned lots of stuff. I hope everybody took away some stuff. I think it was a great idea to have the participants be able to do Q&A with you and read. I thought that was a great idea, and I appreciate you taking the time for us.
Thank you. And thank you, Fred. What's the next program?
Right up after this one, I have unconventional ways to get to yes in uncertain markets.
What time?
It'll start at 2:30.
Got it. Hey, Jesse, thanks for setting all of this up. It had to be a nightmare.
You went certainly gray.
I thought so. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. Happy trails.
Thank you.